Hey guys, welcome to another RLCraft video. And wow, there's a lot more surprising information about damage in RLCraft than I previously thought before researching data for this video. We already know how to do the most possible damage in RLCraft with the strongest possible weapon for most things, but today we are addressing the dreaded final boss's damage cap in RLCraft. The three final bosses, Amalgalich, Asmodeus, and Rahovart, as well as a handful of mini-bosses such as the Lunar Gru and Crimson Epion, actually have a damage cap of 45 damage. You can hit up to 50 damage on occasion, but 45 is the number to aim for. Without beating around the bush, I found the perfect scenario for you to do exactly 45 damage in rapid succession, to kill Rahovart and Amalgalich in under 20 seconds. Asmodeus takes a bit longer since it flies around and applies shields to itself though. The enchantments for the hardest hitting weapon in the game for the Lycanite final bosses is the Ice Dragonbone Rapier with the following enchantments: Swifter Slash is 5, Envenom 3 or higher, and Viper 5. What, were you waiting for more? That's literally all of them. That is all you need. Well, to be more precise, you need to max out your melee damage in your L menu in order to kill the bosses as fast as possible using just these three enchantments. If you do not max your melee damage in the L menu, you can include the enchantments Supreme Sharpness 5, Subject English 4, and Lifesteal 4. However, if you decide to max your melee damage later, your weapon will hit too hard, and if you include those other enchantments, the weapon will actually kill the boss a little bit slower, around 33 seconds or so. Make sure to wear the Poison Stone Bauble as well when using a weapon with Envenomed and Viper. Surprisingly, the damage the Poison Stone Bauble adds on is calculated as after damage, so as long as the initial attack does not go over the main damage cap, the extra damage is still added, and the results are terrifyingly potent. You can use the saber as well, but it kills the boss about 4 to 5 seconds slower than the rapier due to its attack speed. You can also use the fire equivalent Dragonbone versions, but the ice one is still technically better since it handles the additional enemies better by freezing them in place, allowing for simple 2-shots. Also, another note, depending on your L menu stats, you still cannot have any strength buffs when fighting the boss, or your damage will most likely go over the cap. Therefore, subject PE that gives you the potion strength buff on occasion, and the ability in your skill menu Battle Spirit will make you do too much damage when the strength buffs are applied if you're using the Supreme Sharpness version of the weapon. So do not get the perk Battle Spirit unless you don't mind a potentially slower time, because every time you defeat an enemy you will get the strength buff with the Battle Spirit buff. Needless to say, do not wear a Wrath Pendant or Potion Rings of Strength either. I indeed did the calculations for taking strength into account, but no enchantment combination would kill the final boss as fast if you tried to make the strength buffs a part of your build. So in short, just avoid strength buffs if you want to try this speed method out for yourself, and for the best results you want max melee damage stats with a weapon with only Envenomed, Viper, and Swifter Slashes on it. Now on to explaining why this combination of enchantment works so incredibly well. Envenomed is an enchantment that applies a wither and poison effect on your enemy with every hit of your weapon. This normally does not help very much, but if you combine this enchantment with the enchantment Viper, you will get an insane damage boost via after damage, kind of like damage over time. Viper is an enchantment that does a lot of damage to enemies that are affected with poison and or wither. When an enemy is affected by both, the damage is even more obvious. Anyways, the damage of Viper is sort of like after damage that is calculated immediately, but the damage is spaced out a lot, so it does not count as damage that goes over the damage cap. Think of it like a whole bunch of 40 damages right next to each other, rather than just a single strike dealing 400 damage. I hope this makes sense. Regardless, the results are clear as day. Next up is Swifter Slashes 5. This enchantment is there just so your weapon attacks faster, and that's literally it. I could end the video right there. But I want to share some of my findings with you guys. First up is a little surprise with the enchantment Lifesteal 4. From my damage testing, I have found that this enchantment does not actually do what it says it does. This enchantment actually is so much better than previously thought. It turns out that Lifesteal not only gives you great healing from damaging enemies, but it actually increases your weapon's damage as well. My guess is that the enchantment applies a bit of a vampire drain on your weapon, and this will make you do a small amount of more damage and you gain that damage back in hearts. It would be easier to code in an enchantment this way, but even if this is not the case, it is 100% confirmed that Lifesteal 4 increases your base damage by a good amount. From testing on behemoths, Rahalvart, and various nether enemies, it increases your base damage by nearly 25% before applying enchantments, which is a big deal. Your weapon will go over the damage cap of these bosses if you put Lifesteal on your weapon alongside Envenomed and Viper, though, if you plus up your melee damage stats. And I know what you're thinking, the Vampirism enchantment, which is similar to Lifesteal, sadly does not increase your weapon's damage. This just gives us another reason to choose Lifesteal over Vampirism now. Next on my list of discoveries is Rune Piercing Capabilities 4. From testing, it seems like this enchantment actually does not do exactly what it says it does either. This enchantment seems to decrease an opponent's defense rather than its armor. In PvP and PvE, it seems like this enchantment does not actually pierce through armor, but it does make you do more damage, and you do more damage to enemies that have no armor on as well. It seems clear to me that it is easier to say that this enchantment just decreases enemies' defense. I do not think the enchantment does what it says it does by piercing through enemies' armor, but regardless, the enchantment always makes you do a bit damage, usually around 10 to 20% more damage from my personal testing. Now, the last thing I will do before concluding the video is list out all the supporting enchantments that you can place on your boss-destroying weapon if you so choose. Well, I won't list all of them, I'll just list the useful ones. The enchantments you can add without hurting your weapon's damage that can help you a good bit are as follows. Advanced Looting 3 for better drops from enemies, Combat Veterancy 3 so you can heal more with Lifesteal, Parry 3 so you can block a lot of enemy attacks, Atomic Deconstructor 2 so you can sometimes one-shot the tankier mobs that aggro around you while fighting the boss, Education 3 so you can get much more XP from defeating enemies, Unbreaking 3 and Advanced Mending to help prevent your weapon from breaking, and lastly, Curse of Possession so your weapon can never be disarmed by rare enemies. I wanted to include Penetration 5, but from my testing, it actually seems like Penetration 5 sometimes decreases your weapon damage on certain enemies that don't have armor. Penetration 5 is not great since it doesn't work with a lot of enemies, and it cancels out the superior Rune Piercing capabilities. With that though, I said everything I wanted to say in this video, so now we're going to wrap up. Here's a list of the fully enchanted endgame boss-destroying weapons enchantments if you like them in list form. Remember to use the enchantment upgraded potentials halfway through your enchanting to allow you to fit all the enchantments on if you go for more than 10 enchantments or so. I hope that you got something out of the video. Make sure you do not go over 45 damage on the Lycanite mini-bosses and the Lycanite final bosses if you want to melee them down as fast as possible with your own custom enchanted weapon. If you want to just bow them down though, that works too, and it's safer. But you still cannot do 45 damage too fast with the bow or the damage will not register on the boss. Anyways, I hope you have an amazing day and I wish you the best of luck in your adventures. Take care of yourselves and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.
I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright.